Well, hello. Here we are, Preston and Missy with Aroma Freedom Clinic, here to talk to you today about trauma and the many different levels of trauma that there are. But before we begin, I would like to introduce Preston Gifford to you, who I have a special place in my heart for because he is my offspring.
Yes. Yes, I
He is
am.
my son.
I am.
The love of my life. Tell him what a great mom you have.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. There's a gun in my hot side right now, but she's great.
We're talking about trauma. That's not good. Okay, anyway, Preston's a bit of a celebrity because he is a famous YouTuber. And you can look Preston up on YouTube at
Preston Gifford. I'll be like the first one that pops up on there.
It's Preston Gifford Fitness. Like his mother and father, who are ex-professional bodybuilders, Preston is better than we are and is wonderful at making workouts and helping people lose weight, gain weight. And so, anyway, Preston, thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course. My pleasure.
Big topic, trauma. We all know the big things about trauma. Unfortunately, the things I'm going to have to say: abuse, rape. What are the other things? The big things that we all know that are trauma. But what we are now coming to realize is the little things that are trauma. And it's not negating the big things. It's just there's little things that are happening every day in our life where we're not getting our emotional needs met. And this is actually causing trauma. Now, when we think of trauma, we think of it's just something that gets stuffed down in our unconscious. And as long as we don't think about it, it doesn't bother us. But look at what we have found out, and it's called implicit memory. And this is why it is so important to listen to what we're talking about today. Is implicit memory started getting studied in 1980. And what we found from the best minds is that implicit memory is dictating your perception of reality, so how you see the world and yourself. It's dictating your value, your worth, your health, and everything about you. So when you have trauma that has become implicit memory, it's going to block you from achieving things that you want to in life. It blocks you from being able to do the lifestyle changes that you want to do. All the things you judge yourself on, like, why can't you get up every day and go to the gym? Why can't you drink your water? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? What we're going to talk about today will hopefully relieve you from all the judgment of judging yourself. Because the part of you that we're talking about today is the 90% of you. So you're 10% conscious and have control of things, but it's the other 90% that is actually ruling and dictating your life, your choices, your value, your health, and everything about you. So what Preston and I want to talk about today are the little things that actually cause trauma. And the little things are when you don't get your emotional needs met. So what does that mean? Because what I'm going to talk about are things that we've adapted to where we're not getting our emotional needs met and we don't even realize that it's actually hurting us and causing trauma. Because see, these little things add up, right? Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
So the little things, women, I'll speak from women, and Preston, maybe you can share a man's side. But for women, we do it a lot. When we go to our husband and maybe we're trying to share something that happened, and we go down and we go to talk to our husband, and men, what are men? Logical problem fixers.
Yeah, it's just problem solver. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the first solution.
That's the first solution. And that's
a solution.
It is the solution. And that's the last thing that we want to hear. What we want to hear is what we felt. Like, what did that feel like? That must, and we women do that more so for each other. But that's what we're after, is when you go through something and you come down and you go to talk to your family, what you're after is empathy, understanding, like, what did that feel like? That must have been terrible, blah, 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 blah. What we don't want to do is to cover it up with a solution. And that's what we've been doing, because that's what we've been taught, right? We want to get you out of that feeling as fast as we can. We don't want you to feel that way. And that's just one example on how we've stuffed our emotions, just the little things that we do, and we turn and walk away. I don't know how many times with my family, as wonderful as we are and we communicate really well, but I don't know, I've turned the cheek and walked outside the door and cried or done whatever because my family wasn't responsive or they weren't there, because this is new. So we can't beat ourselves up about it, but acknowledging and learning this so that we can learn a whole new language is really going to make a huge difference in your life, in your health, in your perception, and everything about you. So I've talked a lot, Preston. Is there anything that you would like to share here for a moment?
Well, you mentioned yours. You said that yours was more of like from a
Woman's point of view.
yeah. So for like, I guess this isn't how you definitely raised me at all. I mean, you guys raised me to be very feeling and to actually express my emotions. But for most men, especially in our country, it's kind of like this whole like suck it up. You know, like they ingrain that in you in sports primarily, to not be very feeling. You know, and just yeah, suck it up basically. And so I feel like and that could be something as small as, you know, like growing up, somebody says something mean to you at school. And instead of saying, hey, like that kind of like hurt my feelings, you know, and asking for an apology or at least trying to have some resolution, you just suck it up. And eventually, you know, hopefully that person won't, but they can become a bully or they can become, you know, passive aggressive or upset. So just those small things that you don't realize what's happening that are ingrained in you from a young age. Most people don't realize that. And then when they're older, they're like, why do I have anger issues? Why am I so passive aggressive? Why am I this? And it's like, well, your parents told you to suck it up when that kid at the school threw a rock at you, you know, and there was no resolution. So,
No, that's absolutely right.
I mean, you don't want to be on the other end of the spectrum, which is where you throw a rock back because there is a resolution there. It's not good though. And then the other side is you just don't do anything, which is that one side. So you just hold it in. I mean, we've all thrown a rock back once in a while. It was pretty good, but most people don't. They just hold it in. So that's kind of like one thing that I've realized is that right there stacks over the years more and more. And then, you know, before you know it, you're in a relationship with somebody and, you know, they're like, why are you so passive aggressive? Why don't you just tell me how you feel? And it's like, oh, well, I wasn't told that growing up. I was told to just suck it up.
Be nice.
That's what, be nice. Don't do to others as they want to do to you. And it's like, well, they're not holding up that side of the bargain, you know, so that's for a perfect world.
So really what we're getting at is a whole new world of communication to where we're in safe spaces where we can talk to people and they can acknowledge our emotions as being who we are. So what I was talking about earlier with the practitioners of Aroma Freedom Clinic, which is a wonderful group of women, by the way, we were talking about this, and what I was trying to get people to understand where we're going is we've always considered ourselves how we look, our hair, how we dress, you know, how much money we make, blah, blah, blah. Now, how many people have gotten to the end of their life, built empires and said, I didn't do what I came for, or I didn't get to experience this. And they were always emotions, whether it was love, joy, whatever. It was always emotions that they regretted. So how are we going to learn to view our emotions as not being some weak thing, but instead being as important as how we look on the outside? What if our emotions are who we are? What if that is how you are to identify me? My emotions are just like now, I'm expressing my emotions. And what if that's who I am? So not acknowledging our emotions and the things that we've adapted to when people are mean, when people are rude, when people are all these different things, is we've adapted to these things of people being not nice. And it's the same thing as like you walking up to me and going, you know, I don't like your face.
I hear that quite a lot on YouTube. I got a lot of great.
I thought you was like, well, okay.
It's like, well, it's not going away, so you better learn to like it. It ain't going away.
Whatever. And so it's kind of like that though, but people are stepping on our toes left and right. Look, we can't change everybody, but what we can do is acknowledge what it's doing to us. So this is how it works, and this is science, scientifically proven. So when we go through any type of trauma, so I'm talking the big stuff or even the little teeny things, what happens is if you don't get to express and talk it through with somebody you trust, where you can process all of those emotions, What happens when we sleep at night? I'm not going to tell you, like the amygdala and all these different things, but basically, in layman terms, what happens when you sleep at night is the events of your day are supposed to go through the brain and process and file, literally just like a computer. So on a normal day where nothing really happens in your life, you're probably not going to remember that day 30 years from now, but it's filed in a computer. When you have any type of trauma, I'm talking any type of trauma, even the smallest piece of trauma, it goes to process through your brain and file, and it cannot. So it circles back around, goes into your amygdala, and then it becomes implicit memory. That's when feeling becomes a thought, and you don't even know it. You don't know it anymore. It's embedded in there. But guess what? What is creating our reality really is our brain. The chemicals in our brain that are firing are what is creating everything. These little pieces of trauma and the big pieces of trauma are constantly firing chemicals. So even though you're not thinking it anymore, you think it's just gone away, whatever, you forgot about it because you're in the 10% of your consciousness, and that 90% down below is spewing out these chemicals in your brain, and that is what is creating your reality, your health, your worth, and what you see in life. So don't you think that's kind of important?
Yeah, it's basically everything.
It's well, we didn't know. You get older and you think that, I don't know, you start giving up on your dreams, or you start, maybe you haven't found love, or you've been divorced a couple of times, and I don't know, but you start giving up is what you see people doing, and then they just stop living. And here's the reason why. So let's go through an implicit memory scenario, Preston.
Okay.
All right. So let's say loss of a family member.
That could be.
That would be a traumatic event. Yeah. And how do you think that implicit memory is going to affect you in your day-to-day life?
You probably have issues of letting go of things because you lost somebody that you cared about and you didn't want them to go. So you might have an issue like with say you have a friend who you really care about, but they're kind of abusive in a way, or like say like a person that you're dating, or any kind of relationship. If that person is any way toxic to you, you'll probably still hold on to them. There's a high likelihood that you might cling to them because you lost a person.
And you didn't get depressed. That's a beautiful example of implicit memory.
That could be one,
And no, that's a beautiful example, because you see, implicit memory doesn't work the way you think. I mean, I talked to a client of mine who's had her heart broke several times in relationships. And this is how implicit memory works. So she was going into Trader Joe's, and she said the last several times when she's been in Trader Joe's, there's been, as she said, a hot guy looking at her, and actually works his way around to be right next to her, right? But guess what's going through her head the whole time? He probably thinks I'm a shoplifter. He's probably one of those spotters in the store. I got to get out of here. I'm freaking out. Implicit memory's been triggered, and it's protecting her because being in love was like putting your hand on a hot stove. It kept hurting her. So the implicit memory comes through. So it's not like it's going to come through and go, you've been hurt so many times, don't do this anymore. Right. What it's going to do is do what it was doing to her. And the only reason why she brought it up to me is because she saw a cycle of it happening several times. You're a shoplifter, which is so bizarre because that's not something that she would ever do, but it was enough that it made her think, oh my gosh, that's why he's around me, because he thinks I'm shoplifting, blah, 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 blah. And then she would leave the store because it did trigger all that trauma. And that was it.
Well, it's just like fear. It's like, when you're standing next to a ledge and you have fear of heights, you don't hear in your, brain, hey, don't jump off the ledge. You just feel this feeling of get the hell away from the ledge. Like it's just this innate feeling of fear. So it's a survival mechanism. It's it's not gonna just come out of nowhere and tell you, hey buddy, maybe you should walk from that ledge. It's just gonna come through as a feeling. And it's gonna use whatever it can to get you away from that ledge. So
No, you're absolutely right. And the best scenario is to talk about you put your hand on a stove, a hot stove. Either your mom or dad yells, don't. Okay. It's traumatic. That's a traumatic event. And it's been set up in our fight or flight mechanism, flight, or freeze, as a survival. That's what it was created, was for survival. So putting your hand on a hot stove is going to hurt you. So don't do it, right? So a traumatic memory is stored. You don't have to give a thought to putting your hand on the hot stove. And you might remember the trauma for a little while after that, but soon it just gets embedded in your memory and you don't even think about it anymore.
well, then you adapt to the stress, and then that has repercussions because it's the same thing as like a college student during finals week. They get super super stressed out. I remember in my psych class they talked about how generally after finals week a lot of people get sick. It was like it's always like winter break. Like I remember there was a whole study about it. Like a lot of kids were coming home for Christmas and they were all sick, and it happens on the regular. Probably not as much this year because everybody's just under stress because of the pandemic and everything. But during a normal school year, generally when people would get sick was around winter break going into spring, and then they'd all kind of feel better, and then summer would come and we'd all be okay and everyone would be good. But I remember just from the natural stress of everything, your body doesn't know the difference of being chased by a bear or having a deadline for a class. It's just going to give you the same sensation. And then after that, when your body's, after that's when all the sickness comes, because when your body's in that fight or flight response, it can't do its mandatory functions like immune system and fighting off viruses. And so that's why, like, if you've ever been like scared shitless, it's because, and like say like you have to like say you have to use the restroom. When you get scared, you're not thinking about having to go to the bathroom. Like if you've ever had that happen before, where like you're like, oh my god, like you're trying to go to the bathroom and then you're not thinking about it anymore, right? So it's like it literally turns off, all functions are like turned off during that state. And that's why you'll see kids not eat at all or sleep when they're trying to get that deadline done because they're so stressed out, right? And it's that fight or flight response. So yeah, I mean that's something that I wanted to elaborate on with you, is that like after that comes all the repercussions though. So all the times that you weren't fighting any like sicknesses or anything, it all just catches up to you.
And we didn't even realize
it. No. And so same thing goes with implicit memory, is when those things are stacking and stacking, eventually your body adapts to that. And so, not to like freak anybody out, but it's like, oh my gosh, how many years of stress adaptation have I had for when I finally clear all this stress out? I don't want to freak anybody out. It's like you're going to get super sick when you clear all your stress, but you will have a feeling of like you've been carrying a really heavy backpack for a while. I've experienced that. After you let go of a bunch of stress, you're kind of like, ugh.
No, exactly.
You almost feel like, I've almost felt worse sometimes when I let go of the stress, because when you are stressed, you're actually, amped and you're in that energy, you know what I mean? But when you let go of it, you're just exhausted.
Exactly. So Preston, maybe we could share some things about Aroma Freedom Clinic and the things that we do that is the only process that we know of that was created by a genius way ahead of his time, Dr. Ben Purkis, which is Aroma Freedom Technique. And it's a schooling that all of us have to go through to get our practitioner's license.
Yeah.
But it will release implicit memory. And this is wonderful because in one session, let's just give an example. So Preston is a major YouTuber, but he's been working on YouTube since he was in the 6th grade.
That was when the idea came through. Yeah, it was video games.
Yeah, he had a channel called Gaming with Hope, which was really cool because he would play with the younger kids and they'd be distracted playing the games and they'd share a lot of their problems with him and he would help them. So Preston's always been a natural coach, shall we say. But anyway, through this process, Preston would post videos and he wouldn't get the response he wanted. And I got to be honest, it was really tough in the beginning because of all the haters out there. There was a lot of mean things said to him constantly over and over again. And you think, oh, you got to build up thick skin. But honestly, all this stuff is trauma because somebody is like I said, saying, I don't like your face. You know, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, everything. So over time, what we found was Preston wasn't so excited to do his YouTube. He'd set, remember I told you, I want to get up every day and work out. How come I don't? Well, Preston wanted time to be able to record and edit 3 videos a week. And it just he wasn't doing it. And he kept beating himself up and beating himself up like, have I lost my drive? It's the hot stove scenario. He'd been hurt so many times, and all those little things had built up in there that every time he had the thought and the inspiration to do it, but when it came down to doing it, that 90% popped up and wasn't going to let him. And what was it doing to him? Draining him. He was exhausted because all that trauma is in there and it's active, and he tapped into it. And so we finally sat down and did an aroma freedom technique that we use. And we were able to peel the onion and go through several layers and release all that. And in one 45-minute session, after that, Preston has gone from having under 10,000 subscribers, which are people that subscribe to your channel, and that's what YouTubers want, to how many today?
18,300 as of today. Yeah.
So after doing that session, Preston live stream or does his YouTube, I don't know, 2-3 times a week. He's happy. He's got over 8,000 more viewers since we did that process. So remember, I told you it's affecting your perception, and it's affecting what you can bring in, what can come to you. We did the same thing with his father. This is one of the best stories because it was so huge also. And so was that. Because Preston, how many views are you getting a day? How many people are watching your videos a day now?
Now we average 50,000 views a day. And one of my videos that I posted 2 weeks ago is about to hit 100,000, and then the one after that is getting 10,000 views a day. So it's just one video. So yeah, it's at 40,000 in 4 days. So it's about 10,000 a day. Yeah.
And compared to how you felt before we did the AFT session and how you feel now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just light years ahead. I mean, it's just like I like my job and I enjoy it, and I like posting videos, but there was just like this weird block in there that I couldn't explain, that you couldn't push through, or you could have, but I did, and I was miserable, and I got tired of being miserable, so eventually you want to figure out, why am I not enjoying this thing that's like awesome and what I've always wanted. So yeah, I feel a lot better.
Well, it makes you miserable because it's so heavy. And then what I really want to get across here is judgment. From going through suicide, judgment of yourself is a horrible thing. And the one thing that we really hope to get across to you today is you judge what you don't understand to try and take control of a situation. And that is the honest truth. So Preston began to judge Preston. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were a lot of other things that went through his head. Have I lost my drive? Is it over? Am I lazy? Am I this? Am I just not motivated? Am I?
Well, for me, I more so thought about like the physical things. So like, are my hormones out of whack? I changed my diet. Is it my sleep? I haven't been sleeping. Is it this new supplement powder, like pre-workout I'm taking, like what is it? Like, I'm looking at more of like the physical things. And so that was what freaked me out, and then of course, we went to the doctor and got blood work and all, I'm fine. But, you freak out about that kind of stuff. But of course, that was after the AFT. So at that point, I was like, I don't even care. I knew it was the AFT. Like I knew that I just needed to let out some old energy in there.
So do you mind if we share another? Or, I can share one too.
I can share another one personally. I can share one, about it. So, just about hanging out with people and just needing, and not, that one that we cleared. I can share it. So basically there was a point where, the YouTube was one of the things that was bothering me. And then another implicit memory was, when we first moved here, not really wanting to like engage with people as a whole, mainly with like not wanting to go on dates with any girls, which was a very weird feeling for me. I've never had any issues like, wanting to talk to a girl or anything, but it was also influencing just wanting to just talk to people as a whole and just engaging and socializing with people. So, um, what we found was that there was implicit memory in there, and it really was affecting me. And not only was there stuff for relationships, as I've already kind of touched on that before, the one thing that I want to touch on was just engaging with people because they're very similar. So being in a relationship, having that end and the implicit stuff that stores about, like why should you even try again? Well, that can go right in line with also growing up. I lost a lot of friends who also turned on me. So it's like, why would you want to try again? So that was two things that were tied together. And so that was one of the things that we had to clear for me because I've never been antisocial or not wanting to socialize. People have told me to just stop talking before this one here because I just run my mouth nonstop and I'll just call people and even though she was the same way when she was my age. Either way, like grandma would unplug the phone on you, but either way, I literally.
The phone was my lifeline, okay?
Yeah. So I'm just like that. So it was weird for me to not want to like socialize with anybody, especially if like a cute girl's looking at you and I was like that's not me,
What is it that you were feeling though?
And but what it was just this feeling was just this anxiety feeling. Like I just wanted to engage. I could make myself, but the whole time, there was one time I said my name was Michael. Because my name, that's my middle name, and I literally didn't say my name because I knew if I said it, I would have stuttered. I would have been like Preston. I knew I would have done that, and that's embarrassing for me. And I don't know why, but that was like a fear in me. So I said, instead of saying Preston and stuttering, I said Michael, and it was easier to say. And that's when I knew what the hell's going on. Like something's wrong. This is not me. Like I'm not like this. Like come on now. Like I worked at a gym before the pandemic for personal training, and I was up front talking to people, selling training, like nonstop, fast talking. So I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, I went to her. We had the AFT session and we were able to go in there and we realized that not only was there a big demon in there that was tied to a relationship that I had prior, the one that was influencing this was just old stuff with just, moving to a new state and feeling like, well, I already made all these friends there and now we moved here. So what's the point? Like why? What's the point? And that because I've been hurt in the past. So why should I make new ones? Right. Well, obviously we cleared that because now we're
let's talk about that. What I really want to talk about here. So Preston, as he said, he would get he would have anxiety. He used the words anxiety.
Which I've never felt that before. I just never like to label things like that because that gives it, it makes it kind of real. But eventually you reach a point where you're like, no, this is actually anxiety. Like I got to experience like what it really was like. And it's just this, it's like the only thing I can describe is with an audible thing. It's like a ringing, but through your whole body. It's hard to explain. It just feels like a vibration.
Well, that's what I call it. That's what I call anxiety.
Audible would be ringing, and then like a physical thing would be a vibration.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I want to get across here, right here and now, is I think what freaks us out the most is we don't know why we're feeling the way we're feeling. We don't know why. So hopefully what I want you to understand is, so when Preston was presented with an opportunity that had hurt him before in the past, like putting your hand on the hot stove, he was trying to put his hand on the hot stove again, and all that pain and anxiety, because that's what happens with feelings when they get stored inside of us. If you can imagine a receptor in your brain that's alive and it's just because it's a memory that just keeps playing over and over and over and over. And just like anything, the more energy it gets, what do you think? The bigger it gets. And because it's a negative energy, something has to feed it. And that's our energy that's feeding it. So imagine Preston's walking up to talk to a girl. It's hit him, fight, flight, or freeze. He's feeling all that stuff. It's unconscious because of the past. So he's probably in his head going, as he's feeling the anxiety, in his own head, he's thinking, what the heck? He's a very social person, blah, 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 blah. And when the person asks him his name, he says, Michael. He can't even remember his name.
Well, the thing is that you do, but you can't say it. That was the thing, is that I did know my name, I just couldn't say it because of the anxiety, which is even worse. And one thing to keep in mind is it's like you can power through it. Like I said, my name was Michael, and it was a great conversation, but it was terrible during it. It didn't feel good. And so the thing is, like, you can power through implicit memory and do, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, suck it up, go right through life. You can do that, but that's more damaging because that's just putting your hand on the hot stove and just letting it burn. Well, or you can just turn the stove off and then put your hand on it. It's a lot easier. But you're told to just, no pain, no gain, power through it. If I torture myself more, then I'll be better, because growth is painful. And it's like, what are you, a sociopath? Like, what the heck, man? Like, why? That's a great life to live. Yeah, I love that. It's like, we're not in the military, so why are we going to treat ourselves like that? Like that. Let's let our soldiers fight those battles for us. Come on now. So it's like, why are we going to do that? Have that mental warfare on ourselves when it's like, it's not necessary. Just turn the stove off and you're good to go.
AFT.
Just turn the stove off. Like, why do you have to? It's like, don't do that to yourself.
Well, I think people don't know, and that's the biggest thing.
Well,
is to
you
make
joke
you
about
aware.
it and be humorous about it. But like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's the way people are raised. It's literally just how they're raised. They're just ingrained from being younger. The second that you trip and fall, oh, come on, get up, you're fine.
Don't be a baby, don't cry. That didn't hurt.
Like, it's like you stubbed your toe. Oh no, you just stubbed your toe. It's like if you've stubbed your toe for the first time, that shit hurts. Like it's like anything new, especially pain, is a lot more than stubbing your toe for like the 100th time.
No cussing.
Shite. But yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, like you stub your toe for the first time and you're like, ow, this really hurts. And then, especially as a kid, and somebody's like, I don't care, like, you're fine, because they're an adult, they've done it a million times. Like, no, you're not giving them the empathy that they need. So.
That's great, Preston. I think one of the things that helped me the most when I went through depression for the third time was this wonderful psychiatrist that I found that was able to give me answers, unlike anybody else. When I went through depression again, I just remember him looking at me and going, it's clinical textbook depression. And he said it like 5 times. And the reason why he was saying that and trying to ingrain it so much in the other part of me, that 90%, was because a lot of our fear comes from lack of knowledge, and what we don't understand, we judge. And so you get this anxiety like he's talking about, and you don't know where it's coming from. What do you think happens then? Fear. It gets huge.
Just a fight or flight response.
Yep, because it's like you're falling off a cliff and you can't stop. You're like a deer in the headlight. What's going on? What's happening?
You judge everything.
Exactly.
And when there's no one around and you're just sitting there, who's there to judge? The only thing is yourself, because your body's just trying to give it some kind of logical reason. So it's like, oh, maybe, I mean, and it can go as crazy as, oh, maybe it's the shoes I'm wearing. I didn't get any sleep last night. Well, actually, was I able to sleep last night? Was it the breakfast I ate today? Was it the coffee that I drank? Oh my God, I'm drinking too much coffee. Oh my God, now I gotta cut coffee. And before you know it, you're literally pulling off your fingernails because they look weird. Like, you go nuts. You go insane, believe me.
Well, thank you, Preston.
I didn't pull my fingernails off, though. That was just...
No. And share a couple that are quick with me. 2007, I ran a multi-million-dollar business. Everything crashed. We lost everything, all the way down to selling my wedding ring, blah, 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 blah. So I had a ton of implicit memory, lots of things, but I was right into fight or flight, had a child, had a family. I got myself up off the ground and moved forward.
I mean, just being the child there, you couldn't even tell that she was having any internal struggles, because when you're surviving, you don't feel anything. You're just like, you're good. I mean, she was still compassionate. She was still a mother, but there wasn't any moments that I was ever like, oh, wow, like this is going to come back. And, obviously I was young, so I was able to kind of see through a different veil, but I was also very close with my parents to see, like, they did not show that. And that's what I mean. Like, people just get caught up in living or surviving. And then once you're able to thrive, that's when it all comes back and gets you. And thriving is not surviving. Surviving is basic needs. Thriving is when you're able to actually focus on like mental, spiritual, in aspects of the physical, but
And the emotional.
yeah, and then the emotional, but the surviving really is just physical and maybe some emotions, but like the simple ones, like happy, angry, sad, you know, not like depressed or
That's true.
anxiety.
Well, no, it was some of the happiest times of my life. Number one, I was a type A personality. I went into deep meditation.
Which is
That's
very,
what I
being
taught.
type A, it's so easy to just power through things.
And that's what I taught
I'm always happy.
meditation.
What are we talking about? I'm always happy.
And so I thought I was really, really happy. I really did. Mainly because of the chemicals being released in my brain from all the meditation. I would meditate like 8 hours a day. So, but anyway, several times I attempted to restart a business, attempted, and it just failed. I tried to teach meditation, all this stuff. Long story short, finally doing enough AFT, really realizing, why I was trying to leave this life and the trauma in my own brain that fired, but that's a whole different topic we'll talk about. But I had Aroma Freedom Clinic come through to me, and I'm very passionate about sharing with people the things like we are today. But every time I would pick up my computer, I'd be so jazzed. And we moved to Texas, and I knew that when we moved to Texas, that's where I was supposed to open up what they were going to be called then, the trauma centers. But every time I pick up my computer, I would immediately be filled with depression. And I would slam my computer top down, and then here would come the judgment. Have I gotten lazy? Have I gotten complacent? Before you knew it, Missy had a chemical imbalance in her brain. I started to spiral into depression because I kept picking up my computer and not paying attention that it was all implicit memory until I sat down and had somebody do a session on me and go back, of course, to all the trauma I went through. And it actually took about 10 sessions. And then the depression lifted, and here we are today. Within it hasn't even been 8 weeks since I met with the first group of practitioners. We're almost hitting our 8-week anniversary, but that's how fast things started moving once I let go of what I didn't even realize, because like Preston said, I just powered through it. I got up off the ground, it knocked me down, something told me to get up, and I got up and I never looked back, and I kept going. And I thought because of all the meditation I did, I was fine until I broke my neck. And then all the trauma exploded.
Yeah, that'll definitely do it to you.
Yeah, that'll do it. There's another story that's a really good one that we could share about how we got to Texas.
Yeah, about that. Yes.
So when I first started, when I was in school getting my practitioner's license, I've been a health and fitness coach my entire life, like 40 years. So I picked up on the techniques really fast. And anyway, so I decided to do, you guys are so sweet in the chat with all those hearts and all this stuff. We just love you. Just love you. Anyway, so don't you see him?
I do.
Anyway, I decided to do a group session on my family. So when you do a group session with AFT, people write down the questions that they ask. And one of the great things about AFT is there's just 4 questions that we ask you. So you don't have to go deep into your trauma or whatever it is we're working through. So like I said, I had 5 people in the room, and they were writing down when I would ask them these questions. And I didn't know what they were writing, but I believe we did AFT, which is what is a situation in your life that is bothering you right now. Or I could have done a boost, which is a place you want to go in life, but you don't think is possible. Or I could have done a TMRT, which I'm not sure, which is about going to the past. So whatever it is I did, you take people through a process. And by the time we're done, you do go into the anxiety. We do go into that transmitter in the brain, but we have a special tool that I'm not going to tell you, it's a secret, that calms everything down and releases it. We literally biohack, and it releases all the anxiety and all of that. And we asked you questions to grade things to make sure that it is truly gone. And it is gone. And when you're done with the session, I mean, admit you have more blood flow, your skin looks better, everything about you, you're full of energy. Well, little did I know, I didn't know what my husband worked on, I didn't know what my son worked on, I didn't know anything. One thing I did know is that for 3 years, my husband kept getting passed over for promotions, and he was the number one salesperson in this company that he works for. That's a Fortune 500 company, number one salesperson. And he kept getting passed over for promotion, kept getting passed over for promotions, and he was getting very frustrated, and it was hurt. I'm sure it hurt him, like when he was seeing other people, get promoted and not him. They knew that we wanted to get into the sun because since my neck surgery, living in Oregon, the dark weather, it wasn't working well with me. I could really feel the difference in the weather. So for 3 years, right, 3 years, my husband suffered. And we did that on a Sunday. And I am not kidding. This is what I'm telling you. It's creating your perception. On Tuesday, my husband came downstairs and said that he got a promotion, a raise, and they were paying for everything for us to move to Texas. I used to want to call it, when I first learned about this stuff, you want everybody to know. You want to just like scream it to the world, but they think you're crazy. They think you're crazy because you literally have to feel it to understand it. And if you talk about the law of attraction, you talk about a lot of different things that don't vibrate with us cannot come to us. So, but what people don't understand and they judge themselves is they think it's just the 10% of your consciousness that you're dealing with. No, it's that 90. Oh my gosh. How many people have tried to, do the law of attraction or follow the secret, and they see other people manifesting and they're not, and they judge themselves and they don't understand, why isn't it working for me? What's wrong with me? I must not be smart enough. I must not be this. I must not be that. All these different things. And that's the biggest message we want you to know is, number one, we can extract implicit memory quickly and fast, and you will feel amazing after, and it will change everything about you. Your perception of yourself, your perception of reality, your health, everything. And I do mean everything. And what I hear people say that I work with, some people are like, you would think, why are they so happy? They're 200 pounds overweight. They're on 15 different medications. And in one session, things happened that shouldn't have happened, meaning they were told would never happen again. And now all of a sudden they can breathe all the way through their lungs. And now all of a sudden, after doing a couple sessions, I hear, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it makes sense when you think about you're releasing all that baggage that you're carrying, that you've adapted to, and you don't even realize you're carrying it around anymore. But as I stated earlier, that's why when we get older, we begin to give up. We get heavy. You see people just sitting on the couch watching TV or drinking every night or medicating themselves or something. And they don't realize why, but somewhere along the line, they gave up. But they're still listening to the judgments in their mind. And that's what breaks my heart. And we hope that we were able to get across to some of you today to let you know that it's not you. You are made beautiful. It's just this evolution that is part of our evolution, that we're understanding that there's so much more to us. But the most amazing thing is that as we're discovering this, we also have a way to heal it.
Once we were able to do the clearing for myself on my YouTube channel and everything, then came another set of challenges. Was okay, so for so long I wanted to have a fan base. I wanted to have the recognition that I knew that I deserved, which that's okay to say. That's one thing. Also, people feel like there's this big argument right now with especially people around my age, and it's entitlement. And feeling like you deserve something is I say that instead of entitlement because I put in, 4 years and still wasn't getting what I deserved, and or like I felt like I, needed. And so at that point, I feel like it's not a negative view as when somebody says, "Oh, I'm entitled to this." So I felt like I deserved more, and I finally got it, and it was this really good feeling. But the issue then that came was being able to rationalize and realize, like, hey, this is actually happening, and you have a channel, and you're getting thousands of views, and you're making money off of it now weekly, and you need to basically. I kept hearing you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. And the reason why is because when we did our AFT session, there was a part of me that didn't like. I just could not even like realize that it was actually happening, and that's a big thing that I think people need to be aware of, is that when you do an AFT session and you clear all that, that's great. But then another set of challenges, which I didn't know was going to be there, is that once you finally get what you want, actually being happy with finally having it, because you've been fighting so much to get it that when you finally get it, you're like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do now. And then comes more anxiety, more judgment, more whatever. Why don't you know how to do it? Blah, 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 So it's just a whole nother set of challenges. And so after the first AFT session was just to clear getting me to do it, once I was doing it, then being comfortable doing that thing. And so the affirmation was, something along the lines of basically like my snowball has momentum, right? That's what I was doing the AFT session first to get the momentum. Now that I have it, is then being able to rationalize, okay, I have the momentum, but I am also enjoying the ride. And that was the big part of the affirmation, is to enjoy the ride, which I was talking to my mother about. I'm like, hey, I'm very successful now on this app and I'm doing really well, but it doesn't feel the way it's supposed to. Like I thought I'd be like fulfilled. I thought, you finally get what you want, like you get that car, you get that job, you get that. I have this number on a screen now that I've been fighting for years, and I'm still not happy. What's wrong? And then I realized, oh, we need to AFT that, because I can't feel what I'm doing. And that made me aware that there was a block in there. And it was that little 16-year-old Preston in there that's like, hey, once I get this, I'll be happy. Also, I'll be successful and all that. So yeah, no, that's what was going on there. Was just the idea that basically I just needed to make a new affirmation. And just as a heads up, you can do an affirmation and then clear the implicit memory, and then you should be set. Or sometimes there's a little bit of extra cleanup that you have to do, and that's just that last little bit of like, okay, you finally make it where you're trying to get, and then there might be some implicit memory about that because you've never done it before. So,
Preston, that's really good. And Merritt is one of our practitioners, brought up something, and thank you, Merritt. I'd like to kind of tell a little tiny story to touch on what Preston is talking about and what Merritt is also brought up. This is what I'm talking about, where we judge what we don't understand. And so hopefully you can follow along here. But my husband got us into the sun because that was really important to me. But it was also for my son too, and for my husband. But this is the way things work. So it's Christmas time. We moved to Texas in August, and I go downstairs and I am feeling really sad and all these things all of a sudden. So something's triggered my implicit memory, which I did not know that at the time. Maybe it was the smell of the tree. I don't know. But I decided to come upstairs and go into my office. And I sat here for a minute. And remember, I'm feeling all these things. So let's just stop and go. First, there was feeling, all these feelings. Then I didn't know what I was feeling because it was so big inside of me. So I judged it. And I turned around and said, this is my fault. I moved my family here. That's why we don't have any family here. Blah, 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 blah. Then I stopped and I did an AFT session. And I went all the way back to being a child and realizing that I can't remember one of my Christmases growing up, not one. And I went into some other stuff that's very personal. And I released it. And then I went downstairs and had a great time with my family. So that's what I'm talking about. That's where most people keep it is, oh my gosh, look what I did. I moved my family here and now we're not having the big family dinners we normally do. And it's all my fault, blah, blah, blah. If I, blah, 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 blah. Wasn't that at all. Something about, how smell can trigger nice thoughts, smell can also trigger memory. And when we get triggered, we start talking really, really fast, or we shut down and we go into a depression. So, as Merritt so wonderfully pulled out, is our brain is wired to keep us safe, and the unknown is not considered safe. That was the unknown. I was feeling the unknown. So, we tend to self sabotage. And that's why being able to biohack is so important. Thank you, Merritt. It absolutely is. Because I was able to come upstairs because I knew logically that my husband was ecstatic to get out of the rainy Pacific Northwest himself. I was ecstatic to get my son out of there because I'm from California. And so I knew all that. But when that dark cloud of implicit memory, it's like you're on one transmitter in the brain, that tunnel vision comes in and starts to close in on you. And the feelings are so horrible. And if you don't understand that it's implicit memory, you will judge yourself because you'll take control. You have to. You can't stay raw. And so thank you for listening. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up that I learned the other day with Preston. And that was he needed to go get his car inspected. And it's a very simple procedure here in Texas. You just, you go and hand them your keys. They tell you what you need, and that's it.
Did in Oregon.
Yeah.
No problem.
No problem. But Preston woke up and he was feeling all this anxiety around him.
I had no idea what it was until I was like, well, let's go through your day and let's just go through the list. What do you have to do? Well, you gotta go to the gym, you gotta record a video, you gotta edit, you gotta reply to comments, you gotta post on the Instagram, do all the social media stuff. I'm like, cool. And then you're gonna go get your car inspected. And I was like, what? Get my car inspected? And then came the anxiety, and then came the self-judgment, and then came that, and I was like, hold on a second, slow down. I'm like, what if I don't get my car inspected? Oh, then the day is great. Then my whole entire view of the whole entire day has changed. Then it's happy-go-lucky, everything's great. But the second I have that car inspected, terrible, I can't see past it. Everything feels terrible. I just want to sit. I don't want to do anything. Feel drained. And then that's when I went to her and I was like, yo, I think there's something going on here. But I was in it and I was able to get myself out of it. And that, of course, just comes with practice and being able to, doing now, I think almost 10 AFT sessions. I'm about to close to double digits, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so
that's a good thing to understand, because normally
it was just a car inspection.
Yeah, you would go logically, you'd be thinking, Preston, it's not a big deal.
I'm an introvert now. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, you're just going to get your car inspected. But because of all the AFT and everything that we've learned and uncovered now, you realize that getting your car inspected is triggering something in you that's greater.
Yeah,
so let's take care of that.
Yeah.
Instead of forcing you, which you could, to go get your car inspected.
You go do it, yeah.
And your anxiety is just going to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But why not take that and use it? Because it's actually, it's changing our perception, everyone. It's really changing our perception.
Okay, so use it as an opportunity, because especially with something so finite and so simple as going and getting your car inspected, where you literally walk in, say hi for inspection, swipe your card, hand them the keys, sit down, wait 10 minutes, and you're gone. Yeah. You use it on something as least important as that, than say a car accident or a unpaid bill or something where you can't take time to breathe. You have to just act and you have to shove that stuff down. So use it on something like this where you have control, and it's a control chaos, which is basically what I appreciate. Fitness, it's control chaos. That's what training is. You're taking that and you're controlling it and having a good output. Do that with this instead of just waiting until.
Well, you just brought up something that's really important. So had you made yourself do it, Preston, you were in total anxiety. And I know that when or maybe not. Maybe it would have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And you would have went into tunnel vision.
And
then you could have gotten into a car wreck, or who knows what would happen.
Yeah.
Because when implicit memory, if it's big enough, when it comes over and takes you over, meaning when you get into the memory and it's part of your reality today, which is what all of us are living We're living our implicit memory. It's here. It's just when's it going to be triggered?
Yeah, I mean, you hear that a lot with if there's any what is it, like an outlash of somebody, and then like they snap out of it and they're like, what were you doing, whether they're physically verbally or whatever abusive in some way. There's always like a film that goes over somebody, and it's either instinctual or it's an implicit thing, and when it's the implicit and it's not just like a self-protective kind of veil, when it's implicit, it's like you snap them out of it, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And it's like, well, you were just attacking somebody because you were in that old memory, So that's exactly what you're kind of going off of there, is that it can literally take you over. And so yes, like you're saying, it could have evolved into something bigger, and then you're in it, and then
you're not present, you're not there, you're in
an
implicit memory. So
yeah,
that's what they say when people get into wrecks, you're in tunnel vision.
Exactly. Which technique did we use?
We used TMRT. So yeah, because you have tunnel vision, you're stuck in the past. Yeah, and you're reacting. The trauma, your body wants to heal. It constantly wants to heal. So you're stuck in the past, and your body's trying to heal. A lot of people, unfortunately, have to go through it.
I just had a really cool analogy come through.
What's that?
I'm gonna cut you off, but
you did.
I did cut you off.
Right, you do it a lot.
Rightfully so, because you're gonna love this.
Oh,
really? You're gonna love this. The reason why your body, emotions and everything, this is gonna be a pretty cool thing that just came through. So basically, we all know that like if you get chickenpox, right, you only get it once. Why? Because your DNA holds on to a strand of it, that way it can fight it, right? Same thing goes with Epstein-Barr virus. All these viruses, they never go away, because your body it kills it, and then it saves a DNA copy of it in your DNA chain. That way, next time it comes around, hopefully you don't have any side effects, but your body is, viral shedding and all that is a very big part of it. I nerded out for a little bit and learned all about viruses. With that said, the big thing there is that your body creates a DNA copy. It stays with you forever. So if you have chickenpox, it's there forever. Well, I personally have seen a bit of a correlation with emotions and how it stays with you forever, over and over and over. She was saying how the body's trying to heal, right? It's trying to heal over and over. Well, if you keep hurting yourself and everything, it just saves that implicit memory, that DNA copy, hence from the viral, right, thing, would just be that hot stove thing. So it's very similar with emotions, just like when it comes to a virus in DNA, your body does the same thing. It saves that memory and repeats it over and over because that's its defense.
I think I like it.
That's Preston at 3 a.m. when he can't sleep and his brain's just and he's just reading a bunch of random stuff.
Heather has pointed out, which is true. Heather's another one of our wonderful practitioners. Heather brought up something. Yes, the body knows, even though we may not be conscious of it, and that is true. Like I said, we're only 10% conscious. Nobody really listens when I say that. 10%.
Really kind of bust the bubble of being a know-it-all if you're only 10% conscious. I mean, what's the point? I know 10% of everything. Wow. That's impressive. Imagine if you're not a know-it-all. What do you know? Like 0.5%? It's like
Preston.
Wow.
All right.
Always be humbled. or I'll tear you down. Me and my 18K followers will come for you. I'm kidding.
AFT sessions, you can go to aromafreedomclinic.com. You can send me a private message. Maybe you don't need to do a session with me, but with one of my practitioners. Anyway, hit me up, send me a message, and I'll give you a little taste of it. So maybe next time I'll be able to talk Preston into going through a session live.
I don't really have a choice. So, I mean, she's just being polite on camera, but once this is off, it'll be, do the goddamn session.
Stop cussing. I don't talk like that.
That's how you gotta do the session.
Okay, come on, moms. Do they all over-exaggerate things when they get older? Don't they?
You're welcome, Heather. Yeah, we have to.
Everything's over-exaggerated. Like, oh my gosh, she took a knife and chased me across the room. I was talking to him when I had a butter knife in my hand.
Actually, it was a plastic. It was a plastic.
And that turned into.
It was like a little plastic knife. Yeah.
Well,
but my implicit memory is that it was a machete.
Just for the record, because I came from, the
that.
generation where I was raised by primates that, used to beat us. This child has never experienced
Can you
a
tell?
spanking or anything.
Can you tell? Yeah. The only reason I act like this, I know I'm safe for now.
Sometimes I think I should have done it the other way.
Well, see, the thing is, this just she just give you a little shove, and for her,
Oh!
a little shove is like it's like the Hulk. You're like, whoa. She's like, I just gave you a little love tap, and I'm like across the room, yeah. Love tap.
They're laughing at
As
you.
I fly across the room. That's all she needs to do, and then I'm just like, okay, I'll do the dishes.
No, seriously, when they were younger, his sister and him used to tell me, we would rather have you beat us than raise your voice.
It's terrifying. That's not a human voice. It's not, your voice is very powerful. It's not human. It's like a titan. It's like a freaking titan, literally. You ever seen she's like, yeah. It's like I don't even. It's just like a god. It's just like commanding. Yeah, it's terrifying. I'd be trying to drown my sister, or she'd be trying to stab me, and she's just like, yeah, and we're just like, and, look at each other like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I know you're not sorry, and I'm like, I know, we're trying not to die. The Titan walked in there.
Oh my god!
But that's the thing, is that it was just her voice though, so it was just like, attention. It's like, I'll stop.
Well, I was in the military. So.
That's exactly what it was. It was just an implicit memory. So
a little bit of implicit memory.
Seepage there. A little bit of seepage. Implicit memory seeping out there. Just
Can we go? Our time is up. We've got to leave. Oh my gosh. Okay. You famous YouTuber. I can't thank you enough for coming on today. We really enjoyed you. Till next Friday, 3:00. DM me, set up a session. And yeah, have a great weekend. Drink a lot of water. No judgment. Know that there's something greater going on. And we will see you soon. All right?
Yep.
All right. Bye for now, you guys.